Welcome to Cut the Crop, keeping you in the know about everything you grow. Researchers, growers and other interesting folk delivering insights and information on topics ranging from agronomy to profitability. Brought to you by the Foundation for Arable Research.
Hello and welcome to Cut the Crop. I'm Anna Heslop and today I have two guests on the line from the beaten and battered East Coast in Hawke's Bay. First up, welcome Hugh Ritchie from Hawke's Bay. Hi Hugh.
Morning Anna, how are you?
Welcome. Now, before we start talking about Cyclone Gabrielle and its impacts, just a little bit about your farm and how it's set up.
So we're farming just over 2,000 hectares, 800 odd hectares of crop and the rest is pastoral. So the pastoral country is just south of Hastings and we're a little bit further south. So apart from some flooding at Horonui, which was pretty minor, the main damage from Gabrielle was at Drumpeal when the Waipawa River decided to come take a visit for 3 days.
So what stage of growth or harvest were your crops at that stage?
At that stage, we'd got all the cereals and the grass seeds out, but we hadn't got any of the vegetable seeds or a lot of the vegetables. So we lost probably, and a bit of the maize, so we lost probably about 250 hectares of vegetable crop and the seed crops, and then probably 25 hectares of maize that's been flattened or drowned so badly that it's not going to be harvestable.
So would that sort of process and that stage towards harvest, that would be about typical for most of the other arable guys up your way?
Yeah, pretty much. There was quite a lot of cereal that was actually damaged. There was a couple of neighbours that we have done flood insurance that they hadn't got their wheat off, and it just went underwater for 3 weeks and it just was no good. And another block that was so silted that it couldn't be harvested. There was too much dirt going into the combines. We had a shot at harvesting our carrot seed, but again, the same thing. We were probably getting 90% dirt and 10% seed.
So what was the immediate impact on your property from the cyclone?
Well, we had probably of the 650 hectares at Drumpeal, we had probably 610 underwater. The depth of the water at the worst was probably 3 metres. Certainly, we when we got back from Twizel with the kids from rowing, we actually rowed across the top of the maize and a couple of the skiffs. So that sort of gives you an idea of the depth. Once the water receded, then the big damage was actually the soil that had been. Normally if we get wet, we get flooded with inundation rather than velocity, whereas this time we had a massive velocity as the Waipawa came in, and so we finished probably last weekend or yesterday probably finishing the last of the heavy haulage in terms of getting dirt back into holes and actually making paddocks again.
So was that a matter of shifting silt or finding soil for scoured out areas?
A little bit of both. So we had to try and pick up the raw sand that had been blown out of the holes and put that back in the bottom of the holes, and then we tried to pick up some of the silt to give a bit of, a bit of better quality soil on top of the raw sand. Some areas where we just ran out of fill, we had to strip topsoil back to put subsoil back in the holes and then put the topsoil back on again. So we probably shifted 6,000 tonnes of sand in the last couple of weeks just trying to fill in the holes. And that was probably the worst of the area, was about 40 hectares of really bad damage. And we've probably got 20 hectares of pretty heavy silt, sort of over 300 mils deep of silt, which we still haven't quite got a plan with yet.
Okay. So the farm soil is going to be a bit of a patchwork for the next wee while.
Yeah, I'm still, I think my initial optimism that we just had a couple of inches of silt on top of most things, I think might be showing that we actually lost all the topsoil before we ended up with a couple of inches of topsoil on top. I mean, we certainly were lucky that we strip tilled and direct drilled everything, because you can definitely see where the strip till rows have gone, but the between rows have stayed intact. So we could have lost a lot more without that technology being used, but I think we've lost a lot more topsoil than we actually initially thought. So the chemical analysis of the soil, we're waiting for tests to come back, and what we have to do to get the soil back to where it used to be was probably going to be a longer term deal. But that's probably just going to be using maybe returning a little more of the residue to the ground rather than baling and things like that for the next few years. So we could have been a lot worse, but certainly it's there's going to be, I think, the next 6 months is going to tell, especially with the autumn sowing grass and even the autumn cereals we're putting in as to how much damage has been done.
So just back stepping a little bit, you talked about trying to get carrot seed in, which was just a wasted journey. Was anything else that you were, and the maize was, you were rowing across the top of it, so that obviously didn't go too well. Was there anything else anything that you did manage to pull in after the waters went down?
We've harvested nothing since the flood,
right?
And we will get a lot of the maize. I mean, it was interesting. It just seems that the silt was very fine, and any maize that got. I mean, I was surprised how much of the maize survived that had been underwater, but it appears now that it sort of collapsed about 3 to 4 weeks later. Obviously, almost like the stomatas that got blocked and it just died off, and so. It's going to be a little bit interesting with the cobs. Most of those cobs, I think, are going to rot away to nothing. So when we harvest, anything that's not worth it will be gone rather than contaminating the sample. And then the other challenge in the maize is that, we had water through every single crop. So it's going to be slow going in terms of most of the crop is standing, but it's going to be getting the tyres. There's 7,000 tyres that came down the creek from the neighbours. That'll be all through everywhere. There's fencing. There's beekeep. There was a bee sort of yard that was washed out. So there's bee boxes and everything. Just the amount of rubbish through the paddocks. We're going to have to be really careful when we're harvesting to stop beating the machine up too hard with all the rubbish in the sample. A couple of portaloos came down.
Handy.
Well, not really, because the doors are in one paddock and the walls are in the other, and some of the bits are still missing. But
not so handy. What about the silt and stuff going through the harvester? Is that going to be a concern?
To date, all the indications are. We even had flood pumps running for a month with the regional council. They rebuilt those pumps every week because of the abrasive nature of the water. I suspect that we are going to have some fairly heavy wear probably more on the maize front, because most of the stover will go down. The combine should only get the cob, so hopefully it won't be too bad on the internals. But I think there will be some accelerated wear on most of the equipment we're using for the next little while, just because of the very fine dust.
So what still needs doing as part of the follow-up, and what is your plan for the next 12 months, or are you making it up as you go along?
So my guts of my plan has been, let's get the paddocks back to being a paddock so we can then sow something, and then we'll sow it, and then we've got 6 weeks to fence it so we can actually get livestock back in for the winter, and then we'll harvest the maize, and we can start fencing the ground that's around the maize, or tidying up, around the crops that we don't need to get to at this stage. So that's the guts of a plan. We've just about finished the planting, all the grass. We'll put wheat and malt barley in next week, so that sort of gets us back to normal, get the livestock back in. And the big job really facing us now is like understanding the impact on tile drains, a lot of blockages there, understanding, cleaning a lot of the drainage network. There's about 20 hectares of deep silt that we're not quite sure how to handle yet, what we do with that. Which we might just broadcast oats on top of that and just see what happens and just manage that through. And then again, we've probably still got over 8 kilometres of fencing to put back up to make the property, sheep-proof again or stock-proof. But look, we've been really fortunate. One, that I've had a good group of friends that have come down and pitched in over Easter, and weeks before that, we had a couple of guys, really nice guys. Colin and Campbell came down from Northland last week, offering fencing for a week. So it's been amazing, the support and the generosity that people have done to just come in and pitch in and lend a hand to get things done. So we've been really lucky on that front, and we've got 9 staff in the business, so again they're all pitching in and fencing and things. So when you go home at night, you can see you've actually made progress, which is there's some pretty tragic stories out there, and even recently some the ultimate tragedy where people are feeling they just aren't making progress and it's just too much. So on that front we've got to be we're very lucky and thankful that we've had that support and we've got the scale to get things done.
Thanks very much, Hugh. So it sounds like you've got a plan to work to, and that's the first step. Keep up the good work, and I'm sure that everyone listening is thinking of you. So now I have Toby Parker with me. Now, Toby farms at Tolaga Bay, another area that got one hell of a hiding from Cyclone Gabrielle. Toby, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us a wee bit about your farm before we get into the cyclone impact.
So we're farming sort of by the Mangahea River. We've got 200 hectares all in maize and have about 40 to 60 cattle that sort of eat around the edges normally. Yeah. And 7 hectares of kiwi fruit.
What was the immediate impact on your property when the cyclone hit?
So we had water right across our place, and the biggest worry for us was firstly the kiwi fruit, being obviously a pretty high value crop. So we had sediment right through that orchard, but we didn't have any plants die. Luckily, we had a team of about 60 people for 4 days in there on their hands and knees, literally digging the silt out from around the stems of the plants so they didn't rot. And then we harvested about 2 weeks later, and we've been digging silt out of there ever since to try and get back down to normal ground level.
So would that be your normal harvest time, or did you get in a wee bit earlier?
We're actually the first organic orchard in the whole of New Zealand to harvest, which was pretty cool, and it was our first ever harvest. So the plants started going a bit yellow. They're definitely pretty stressed and stuff, but thank God we just got them off sort of in the nick of time. It was our sort of a bit of good luck somehow.
Have you had advice on how they're going to do for the next 12 months? So they should recover?
Yeah, so I think they go dormant now that we've harvested, and they're in their sort of thinning and stuff now. So they've obviously had a pretty hard time, but like the orchard's still there and the plants are still alive, so we're very grateful for that.
That's quite important. So on the kind of less high value crops, what happened with the maize?
Yeah, we've had quite a bit of damage there. I leased about 35 hectares, and I've only got about 7 hectares left that is harvestable. The rest is completely gone. It's half a metre deep in silt. You can't even see the plants there. It's just like a paddock of silt. That's pretty hard. That's pretty challenging. That's kind of the biggest worry for me now, is sort of figuring out how I'm going to pay for the seed and fertiliser and stuff, and lease of the land. Bit of a major when you're only sort of 3 years in contracting. Mum and Dad's place and my sister's, we've just started harvesting. We're on about our 3rd paddock now, and we're just getting bogged everywhere where we go. We've got a digger in the paddock just following the combine and chaser bin around, pulling them out every sort of 10, 15 minutes. You basically sort of half fill the bin and then have to just tow it out of the paddock and stuff and dig it out of wherever you get stuck and sort of drag it across. Yeah, it's a bit frustrating, but we're slowly getting the trucks out. Spent all day yesterday getting three trucks out, so.
That just sounds like a complete nightmare. So are you able to even get into the paddocks, or was that a mission in itself?
Yeah, it's funny you ask that. So on Saturday we had 4 of us with a digger and a tractor and a trailer and a truck and stuff, and we spent all Saturday digging silt out to try and get into the paddock, and then we realised that it was too deep. There was no way to get into that part of the paddock. So we, on Sunday, got a crew of us again and went and got a culvert and used the forestry debris in the paddock and stacked all some logs either side of the culvert and made a temporary crossing onto Parrell Road to access the paddock in another location.
Wow.
And basically, we had to put a sort of a temporary culvert in and stuff that's probably illegal, but we're not. It's just what you got to do. So. Scraping mud and stuff off the road, in between trucks and stuff like that, and getting a few funny looks from Downer, but they've been really good about it actually. So, that's nice. And then, you just sort of got to harvest along, and then there's massive piles of logs that have pushed right into the maize paddock. So you sort of got to go up and turn around where the logs are, and you're trying to turn around without getting stuck and stuff. And it's like harvesting a 12 hectare paddock and sort of little 2 hectare sections because you're going around these big piles of logs and stuff. So it's few deep breaths and stuff, and can't get frustrated yet. We've only just started, so but yeah, it's just quite hard on the staff and stuff. Trying to do their best, and they think they've done things wrong because they're getting bogged everywhere, and it's sort of, you just have to get in the paddock and drag it out. Pretty fortunate. I ordered a tractor 2 years ago that's like a quad track tractor, so it's got tracks instead of wheels. And if I didn't have that tractor, I literally wouldn't be able to be doing any harvesting right now. So, it's kind of crazy. It's come at a pretty hard time to sort of pay it back and stuff, but at the same time, we wouldn't be getting the crops out of the paddock if I didn't have it.
So what's the quality of what you're actually taking off? Obviously, it's worth doing.
Yeah, no, the maize is an amazing plant. At the start of the season, I spent a lot of money on the planter with like hydraulic downforce and precision seeding equipment that made a really big difference in our stand. So we've got really nice, evenly spaced plants, and they were healthy plants up until sort of New Year. And I think that's made a big difference because any sort of weaker plants just fall over and those cobs end up on the ground. We are seeing a bit of disease, and most of our crops got northern leaf blight, and it was like crops that had a 5-star rating to not get northern leaf blight have actually, the crops have died off early. Like we're about to start harvesting PO937 that was planted end of October, I think early November. It shouldn't be ready for another month, but it's ready because it literally died a month earlier because of the blight. So, and
is that land that was underwater as well, or just on its own?
That was like the same. That was on Dad's place. So yeah, that's gone. That's gone underwater. It's had all of our crops have all been underwater. They've had a pretty hard time. Like we've probably lost 4 tonnes to the hectare with all of that weather. But I'm pretty grateful. Like the crops at the moment are still standing, probably because they're in a foot of silt, which is actually helping to support the plants in a weird way. But if we keep getting this rainy, showery, like if we have a big wind event, that wouldn't be good, because once the crops sort of blow over, they're pretty hard to pick up. So we're harvesting maize at 30% moisture, 27% moisture just to get the stuff off the paddocks, because if we get a wind event, we're gonna lose another tonne or 2 to the hectare.
So are you just harvesting your own crops, or do you do some for other people as well?
I'm a contractor, so I harvest my parents and my sister's crops as a contractor, and maize sort of all around Tolaga and stuff. So there are paddocks at the moment that are ready to harvest, but the ground conditions aren't good enough, even though the combine's on sort of the biggest, widest tracks you can get, that's still getting bogged. So we thought last year was bad, and it didn't get stuck, and we've already been stuck about 4 times this year, and we're on our 3rd paddock.
I don't think anyone could even start to imagine what that looks and feels like. What's your road access like now? Because you guys were completely cut off for quite a while.
Yeah, like the road from Gisborne to Tolaga, that's fine. It's just the hardest thing is like our driveway getting down the farm, that had a foot or 2 of silt, even deeper in some places. So we've been frantically going as hard as we can with the digger, just digging and moving the silt, to the edges of the road and trying to get metal down. But then you get 10 mils of rain and it feels like 100, because the whole road just turns to porridge. So we're sort of having to fill the trucks and then drag them out and stuff. So normally you probably harvest 20 to 30 hectares in a day. Now we're probably doing like 10 hectares a day kind of thing. Is a pretty big day with an extra staff member. So it's kind of it's not great being a maize harvesting contractor this season.
I can imagine. So the cleanup on your farm and your family's properties is kind of underway. What still needs to be done?
We've just finished digging to the back of the farm, and then each paddock we go into, we've got to dig the gates out of the silt, dig the gateways out. All the fences are buried up to about the 4th wire in silt. So basically every single fence on our farm is buggered, probably 15 kilometres at a guess. from 2018, Gabrielle and hail and stuff. Basically, every fence is either covered in silt or covered in logs. So we've had to sell all of our cattle because we can't contain them. We can't even keep them on the property and stuff. So we're just trying to get the maize out is kind of the first thing. And then, we just got to go along and pull all the fences out, move the silt and start putting the fences back. But, it's pretty hard if we're not really going to get any help for all the loss from the maize to go and spend a couple of $100,000 on fencing supplies. So we're kind of, we don't really know what to do at the moment. There's a lot of uncertainty and stuff. We're just trying to get the crops off and see how bad the averages actually are. We're grateful we've got something to harvest. It's just how much fuel and time and how much damage we're kind of doing to the ground. And then it's sort of getting the crops off is one thing, but like silt's a funny thing. When it's wet, it's really tricky to get through. But then if it goes hot and dry, if you've got over like a foot of silt, that sort of turns to like talcum powder and you get stuck in it because it's really dry and fluffy. So it's kind of, there's still a lot of challenges ahead, and it's hard. We don't know whether we're going to have to get like trucks in and actually dig the silt and take it out of the paddock or not. It might be too deep to actually mix in. So we don't really, we're still figuring out how bad it actually is, as crazy as that sounds.
No, it doesn't sound crazy because you can't see underneath it. It's appalling. So the plan for the next 12 months is one day at a time?
Yeah, kind of is really. It's figuring out, just trying to get enough cash flow to actually keep your business rolling, and we want to pay our bills and stuff and keep people happy and stuff. But we're pretty worn down and feeling pretty over it, to be honest. Like the last 12 months, we've had 7 weather events in Tolaga and stuff, and it's just been like two pretty wet, tough years in a row, and we were really sort of hoping just to have a half decent season this season, and the crops were looking really good, and then just kind of got taken away from you at the last minute. So we just got to get the drains dug in, get the tile drains running and stuff, because they're all sort of blocked and stuff at the moment, and it's just so difficult trying to do anything. Just trying to get a tractor and a trailer and a paddock to say dig a drain, it's not really as easy as that, because you just sort of get stuck wherever you go. Like it's sort of plus we've had our cottage written off and stuff, and insurance is still mucking around. Can't get anything out of them, can't get paid out or anything to actually get our accommodation back. We've got our staff living in temporary quarters and stuff, and they've been really good about it and stuff. It's sort of it's just difficult in every area of life at the moment. Not one to really like whinging, but it's just sort of...
No, that's not whinging, and I wish I could think of something that could make you feel better, but I just think that from me and from every other farmer, and I'm actually city people as well, what you're going through, we're really, really, we haven't forgotten. I know it's not on the headlines every day, but we haven't forgotten, and all I can say is like just best of luck, and if there's anything that people can do to help, you need to sing out and ask.
Thanks.
Thanks, Toby. Usually I sign off from these podcasts saying have a great day on the farm, but I just can't say that for you. I'll just say let's hope you get through whatever harvest you can with as few stoppages and stuckages as possible, and we'll talk to you again in a few months' time and see how things are going.
Yep. Thanks. Every day's a great day when you're alive. You just got to, find a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Like, we're up against it, but we're tough and we're resilient. But it's just, it's just a bit of hard work at the moment, I suppose, and hopefully we'll get there in the end. We'll give it a good nudge anyway.
Well, that's it. Okay, everybody, get out there and give it a good nudge, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Cut the Crop, presented to you by FAR. If you'd like to know more about any of the topics discussed or have any suggestions for future topics, go to www.cutthecrop.co.nz.